What's going on, YouTube? Tej and friends back with another week of the Hurry Up Offense, here to preview week 6 of the NFL season. I guess that means we're 1/3 of the way through the year, which is a little sad to think about. But I'm joined today by JT. JT, how's it going, man?
It's going good. Vikings fans are either rejoicing or are very upset about Justin Jefferson being placed on IR. I'm pretty excited about it, to be honest. Kind of opens up our draft potential, I think, with him being out at least 4 games. But yeah, that's what my mind's been on with the news today.
Also, potentially it's less hits he's taken in a season where you guys don't go to the promised land. Maybe they could be safe.
And it's a soft tissue injury.
Yeah.
Right, so you never want to rush that back. So if we were in, I don't know, let's say we're 3-2 or whatever, that could get a little scary if we rush it back.
Yeah, no, for sure. But you guys find yourself, what, 1-4? So
1-4. Love it.
Probably not
I'm not mad at it, though. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah. Yep. And we're coming off a week where you and I had our locks of the week hit last week. No Mason this week. His narrowly missed. He was actually 2 points away on that Rams loss to the Eagles from having his lock of the week hit as well. But we're going to preview all 12 games we got this week for week 6 of the NFL season. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Thursday Night Football, Chiefs Broncos. It's currently a 10.5 point line. Kansas City favored at home. Total at 48. I think Kansas City wins. This is going to be a little weird to say. Kansas City will win, cover, but I think the under hits. I think this is going to be a game where everyone's hyping up Kansas City's offense. Denver's got a bad defense, to where it actually isn't that high a scoring of a game. Granted, that makes 10.5 a lot harder to cover, but I have no faith in Denver right now. But let me hear your thoughts on this one.
Man, prime time, I think the league needs the Broncos to keep it somewhat close. 10.5 is a lot of points. I probably wouldn't play any side. Chiefs are a better team. Watching Mahomes last week was so annoying, to be honest. Just as a fan against Mahomes, dude, he just makes some throws where you're like, dude, that makes no sense.
Yes.
And like his ability to sense the line of scrimmage while he's scrambling is insane. It's insane. Like he must have a third eye that looks at the yard markers at all times. Yeah, Mahomes is a beast, man. He's the only reason they beat us last week, which I know obviously it's a quarterback, right?
He does that to a lot of people.
Just insane. But yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Chiefs are going to roll them. I don't think there's any real potential for an upset.
Yeah, I feel like this can be a game where I'm looking at that total like 24-10. Like, I don't really think this is going to be fireworks, super crazy. That's why I kind of like the under. And maybe I'm just thinking about that Packers Raiders game where we just saw. Thought there'd be a lot more offense. Turned out to not be as much. I don't know. Sometimes these primetime games turn into some defensive sweats. And I kind of feel like that's how Thursday is going to play out, especially if people are talking up offense. But not an exciting Thursday night game. Not really the greatest way to start the week. So let's jump into the Sunday slate. We have another weekend starting at 9:30, and I'm absolutely here for it. Granted, it's Ravens-Titans. Ravens coming off a frustrating loss. Tennessee, say a little bit of the same. So JT, let me hear your thoughts on this one.
So I played the Ravens when the line opened at 3.5. It's now
4.5.
Is that 4.5 now? 4.5 is a little dicey. Well, I'd still play it. I think the Ravens kind of smashed them off a tough loss to the Steelers. Like last second loss, we made some money on it because we, live bet the Steelers money line. Shout out. But yeah, I think the Ravens bounce back. They're just a better team in my opinion. I don't know. Yeah, I just think they bounce back. It's a good spot for them.
I mean, both these teams are coming off division losses too. The Ravens losing to the Steelers, the Titans losing to the Colts. I'm interested to see how that plays into this one. Like, who's got more to lose here?
Titans are just bad.
Ravens. I think
the Ravens are just a better team.
I agree.
I don't know.
But I think ultimately then this game comes down to, I think Tennessee's got a good run D. Can Lamar win through the air? And in specific, I think Lamar actually played really well last week. He had like a 93 passing grade through PFF. His pass catchers had a charted PFF record, 8 drops. 8 drops. 6 of them for first downs or touchdowns.
Yeah, they're spacing. We were watching, but we were at a bar, so it was kind of hard to catch every play. But their wide receiver spacing, some of their route concepts looks a lot better than what I saw. I went to the game last year, so different OC, Vikings, Ravens, and it was like a high school offense. They're running tons of tight ends, just run the ball all the time. Their new offense, man, it's a legit pro style offense, and I don't know, it just helps out Lamar a lot when it comes to passing through the air. I mean, like you said, his passer rating was in the 90s.
Yeah, and I mean, to have that type of a passing grade from PFF does not come easy. It's going to come down to Rashad Bateman not dropping a pass wide open in the back of the end zone. And I mean, hey, take it from a Steelers fan, there really wasn't a reason why we won that game. So as long as Baltimore has their pass catchers reeling in passes, I'm feeling like the Ravens are able to cover. All right, next up, let's get to the 1 o'clock hour and 49ers Browns. It's a little bit of a TBD on if Deshaun Watson's going to play. If he doesn't, it's not going to be DTR, which I find to be interesting. Let me just double check this so I don't get it wrong. But the line right now is 5.5. What are you thinking right now? And or are you just not touching until we know about Watson?
49ers 5.5 seems low, dude. I don't know. It seems like Vegas is kind of, I don't know, sitting on a Brock Purdy letdown game, but like he still hasn't had one that's affected them. They're just so good. Now that Browns defense is like that, so you're hoping that the Browns don't move the ball. Essentially, is kind of what you're betting on if you're going to take the 5.5 points with the Niners. So
now let me get you an answer on this. If it's not Deshaun Watson, it's PJ Walker, which in turn makes me say 5.5 for San Francisco. Let me smash that through the roof.
Yeah, get it now. Actually, play it now before we get the news that Deshaun or before we get the news that PJ Walker's playing, because the line should move to at least 7.5.
Yeah, it's got to.
You're missing the hook. I mean, that's only a 2-point move, but it's through key number. 5.5 is nice, man. I mean, the 49ers handled the Cowboys last week. The Browns are very similar. Like, there's really not a huge difference in team structure, offensive output. Now, I think the Browns will get Amari Cooper back this week, that's an uplift. But with PJ Walker at the helm, we saw what that looked like last year. So
now I venture to say that it's going to be Deshaun Watson. It felt like he was kind of a last minute scratch last week. So, how much of that is lingering to this week, I just don't really know. Also, maybe the argument to take San Francisco now is, hey, let's say Watson's starting. What's the line move to? Max -4?
It probably stays where it's at, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe 4.5. Maybe you get a point. So
I think it's still it might move to 6.5, 7, even if Watson's playing, just with the money coming in on the Niners, to be honest.
Yeah, that late Sunday push could totally make that happen. So sounds like we're both on the Niners, but obviously a lot of
Niners or Eagles, best team in the NFC.
I'll go with San Francisco right now.
Okay.
What side of that are you on? I think you're on Philly.
Yeah, I'm on Philly, but it's not as far. 5 games is enough for me to see that Brock Purdy is not a joke, and it's not.
Yeah,
it's not a fluke that he's not missing throws. He's not screwing up games through 5 games. If you haven't screwed one up, you're probably not going to screw up many. So I'll kind of give him the edge, and he's kind of proving me wrong in that sense.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know if we've had like an open discourse about Brock Purdy, so this is actually a good time to kind of talk about it. And I think it was Tage Seth who works for the 33rd team, and he was using other 49er quarterbacks under the Kyle Shanahan era. And their, I think it was passing efficiency and then maybe it was EPA, but he had 2 different stats, and Brock Purdy's ahead of everyone else. So I basically kind of where I think I'm landing on this is Purdy is good. That system makes him insane. But he's not the best at running that scheme.
I would say like his processing speed is very quick.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest key. Like, we talk about the arm, we talk about the foot, the feet, whatever, like whatever you want to call it. Yeah, he's not elite at any trait, but it's kind of like, no, I'm not saying he's Brady, right? But he has that same mental processing speed, where it's like, in contrast, we look at like Sam Howell, right? Sam Howell's a complete polar opposite. He's got an absolute cannon, but he processes like
everything a second behind.
He's like Windows 3. I don't know, like, and we're on 10. You know what I mean? So like, or whatever the new Windows software is. But like, that's kind of how I feel about Purdy. I think he's just able to process defenses quickly, and it's easier when your guys are open, right?
Right.
He's got plenty of weapons,
and ultimately he'll probably be like perennial QB 15 for me. But he just runs that offense better than we've seen anybody else do it. So to me, he's just kind of the best.
Kind of Alex Smith vibes, but I think he's got a little bit more.
But if you found the perfect offense for Alex Smith, where like he just goes crack, honestly, Kansas City in a lot of ways was kind of his best offense. Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So I think Purdy's pretty good, but I do understand that obviously Kyle Shanahan is doing the heavy lifting there, so to speak. All right, off of that, Panthers, Dolphins, game of the week. Just kidding. I'm taking Miami 13.5. Don't really care. Bryce Young just right now can't keep up. And as long as Tua's not pitched in the defense, because I mean, he was kind of doing that against the Giants and they still dogged New York. But if he's not doing that, I really don't see a pathway to where Carolina keeps this one close.
Yeah, so Dolphins losing A-Chain. I've also heard it pronounced A-Chan. I've also heard it pronounced a chain. So,
Yep.
if anybody's got the book on the pronunciation of his last name, let me know.
I'm sticking
Uh,
to A-Chain.
yeah, I'm gonna stick A-Chain because that sounds cool. I don't know, A-Chain. That's like almost
Move
a nickname.
A-Chain, right?
It's
Like,
kind of
it
yeah,
sounds,
dude, it's
yeah,
kind
it
of a
sounds
nickname at that point. But
cool.
no, huge loss for them because they were just absolutely like finding spots for him to absolutely like just excel. So, yeah, that's a big loss. I think it's going to be noticed, but not enough. 13 and a half, I'm not going to play it because in the NFL, it's rare I'm going to touch a spread over 10, but the Dolphins will win the game. I mean, it's not close. The Panthers suck. They're terrible.
Yeah, no, and I totally respect. Honestly, I think Carolina's the worst offense in the league right now. Like, if I had to,
They're the worst team in the league.
Carolina, yeah, and I think they're probably the weakest team in the league.
They're the worst team in the league.
Yeah. They came in number 32 in my power rankings. So you and I, we're simpatico there. All right, JT, let me throw this one to you. In Chicago, your Vikings, 2.5-point favorites, despite the Justin Jefferson news we talked about. And again, despite being on the road. So Chicago's coming off a huge win, but let me hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have to throw the ball much, to be honest. I think at 2.5, I've already played the Vikings minus 2.5. We'll find our way into a win. It kind of sucks. I wish they would lose. Kirk's good enough to, keep
the
us
game
up.
he wins. This is the game.
Yeah, he's not gonna lose this game here. Run blocking grades for our offensive line have skyrocketed the past couple weeks. Now, I'm not saying we're an elite offensive line when it comes to the run game, and our backs are super mid, but that being said, the Bears are just not great against the run. So I kind of like us just to cover the 2.5. 2.5 is tiny.
Yeah.
If it was at 4.5, I think that's where the line should be. 4.5, I may not touch a side, but at 2.5, a field goal, we're gonna win by a field goal.
Yeah, I mean, all Minnesota games come down to a field goal, it feels like.
Yeah, no,
So-
we'll win a game by a field goal.
Yeah, so no, I'm kind of with you there. I already just bet Vikings by 2.5. I'm with you. I think this is. I mean, obviously Addison's props are going to be through the roof, but man, he could just play. Like he's just good, and that Chicago secondary just isn't at 100%. So nice one.
By the end of the year, I think that if the Vikings are smart in the front office, they need to drag on this Jefferson injury. He should not come back for 6 weeks. I know it's 4 weeks is minimum. He shouldn't come back for at least 6.
Make it 8. I don't care.
Sleeper, if you want to start looking at some futures for Addison, maybe rookie of the year, conversation, just because he's going to get the volume. He's going to get at least 10 targets a game with JJ out. There's nobody else that can separate one-on-one like Addison can on our offense. I mean, KJ Osborne's not the best, and Hawkinson can't catch a pass outside of his chest, so that's cool. So yeah, maybe look to play a little Addison future bet if that's something you're into.
Yeah, what I'm actually also looking forward to in this one, and again, I've already taken the Vikings, but that Eberflus, since he took over as a DC for Chicago last week, that defense looked a little lot better. But I don't know if that's Ron Rivera needs to go in Washington. That offense is just lethargic, or if that was actually an impact from Matt Eberflus. So this can be the real test to see how much of an impact he makes as the play caller. All right, next one to talk about, Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Seattle Seahawks. I'm kind of surprised the line's only by 3, to be honest. Seattle's coming off a bye, which definitely aids them. I'm kind of hesitant to buy into Cincy. We talked last week. I didn't think it was going to be a layup game. It kind of turned into one. But last time I got my hopes up about Cincy, they laid a dud the next week. So I don't know. I'm kind of going back and forth about this. What do you think about Burrow? Again, we were out and about, but it looked like Burrow was a little healthier. But, last time I said that, came back to look like some dog shit the next week.
Yeah, so I'm kind of going off of other people's kind of interpretation of the game because I haven't seen much of the game last week against the Cardinals. But I do know my opinion on the Cardinals defense. They're a solid defense. They're not bad. They're not any slouch. The team as a whole, it's bad. It's got limited upside, especially on offense. On defense, though, I think they're okay. So the fact that the Bengals handled them in terms of scoring points, and we haven't seen that all year, that kind of leads me to believe that they're back. I mean, in some ways, right? So I've got to see it one more week. I think this is another week that we see it. A lot of the talk on like Twitter, stuff like that, is that Burrow looked like he was moving better, which is the whole thing, right?
And he also had a deep ball to Chase where it looked like Burrow last year throwing it, not his deep ball week 2 or something like that. So that
and a lot of it's going to be, almost like, I don't know, people that have played sports, if you have a nagging injury, like say like a calf strain, that kind of stuff, it does take some time for you to learn how to play with that, even if it's not necessarily back to full strength. he may just be learning how to throw the ball with his calf not being the primary driver, right? So it just could be a little bit of adaptation from one of the better quarterbacks in the league. So at 3 points, that's crazy to me. Yeah. So I'm going to play, I think, let me see if I've already played it. I know I placed like 4 bets already this week. They are not one of the ones I played, but I will be.
I have to. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, buyer beware. I just feel like, I don't know. I probably won't touch it just till I see a second consecutive week where Cincy's offense looks legit. The other thing to note here is they'll probably get T. Higgins back. They did not have Higgins last week. They get him back. They give them one more guy to keep that offense scary. But
Higgins is back this week?
Yeah, they'll get Higgins back this week.
Yeah, Bengals -3. Come on.
That might be JT's lock. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Seattle's offense is good, so I need Lou Anarumo to kind of pick it up.
I'll make it a little more spicy. We'll see how it looks, though.
I like it. All right, let's talk Colts-Jags. This is kind of one of those weird rivalries where Indianapolis typically has the upper hand against Jacksonville. The Jags did win week 1. I think I might be crazy for this, but I'm taking the Colts to win. Like, I think I like their money line in this one. Games are weird, and the Jags just played their biggest game of the season, and I don't know if I've seen them play a really good game 2 weeks in a row. Probably during the Doug Peterson era, maybe at the very end of last year. They got hot. I don't know.
To be clear, the Jags did not play a great game.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Have they played a good game this year?
No.
They played winnable. They played winnable football. I don't know about great.
You could kind of argue that both ways. So they haven't played a great game this year, but their record's not that bad. So it's kind of, yeah, you can kind of play it both ways.
With wins in their second home city, though. Like, take it with a pinch of salt.
Sure.
And against the Falcons.
I need to look at their record in London. I feel like it's not that great. Like when they play in London.
How about this? Urban Meyer, undefeated as a head coach in London.
Maybe you should stay there. Let's ship him off. Anyway, no. So I think Jags -4. Honestly, is what I would take. I think the drop off from Anthony Richardson to Minshew is huge. Personally, I think Minshew can manage a game. I don't think they lose by. Minshew will keep you from losing by 14. But I think at 4, I love the Jags.
Sure. All right. Well, hey, that's our big difference. I like the Colts getting the points, and I think they win outright. Also, this is me just trying to play game theory too and say, hey, well, it's a division game. There was no reason the Steelers should have beaten the Ravens last week. Sometimes you just get these weird results, and this kind of feels like it should be one of them. So I don't know. The Jags took game 1 in week 1, so maybe they're.
You don't think the Jags are on the wrong side of variance this year? Because if you watch a lot of their red zone possessions, a lot of the passes that Trevor Lawrence is throwing, they're like 6 inches too wide for the receiver, or just high, or it's high enough to where the guy gets his hand on the ball, catches it, and 1 foot's in. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I also think that comes down to how they play. And we talked about this some last week where, that Kansas City game in specific, Ridley had like 2 drops in the back of the end zone that came out of nowhere. And then there was the one from Zay Jones. Yeah, they got bad variance in that one. I also think when you play conservative, you open up the door for bad variance to hit you versus if you take shots and, kind of push the ball down the field and you blitz more, you're inviting good variance to come your way. Granted, that comes with the potential floodgates being dropped on your head. So I don't know. I think it comes down to basically they're playing West Coast offense. They're playing underneath and not letting Trevor Lawrence drive the ball down the field. So they get in the red zone, weird things happen.
Which is, to be clear, not a great fit for Trevor Lawrence.
No, it's weird. It's weird. And they don't
He's
really
not good at that either. He's not good at that. Like imagine Justin Herbert in a West Coast offense. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Take advantage of the guy with the absolute cannon who can pull off some plays that you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Well, let's just, let's run him like, I don't know, Brock Purdy. Like to run a Brock Purdy type offense with subpar weapons, a better quarterback. It's weird.
Well, and I mean, to your point, look at what just happened with the Chargers, right? Like this whole offseason was about, you got to get a new OC. Like that was literally the whole point around LA's offseason. Find a guy who will get Herbert to throw the ball down the field. And it's also bewildering for Jacksonville because who was their biggest addition of the offseason? They didn't get him during the offseason, but the biggest addition to that squad was Calvin Ridley. And Calvin Ridley is not a slant runner. He's a go ball guy. He gets those deep
He's been a little underwhelming, but
you're telling me. I got him in fantasy.
He's been underwhelming, at least for my expectations. I think other people were kind of like, oh yeah, we'll see. I was full on like,
yeah, I was hyped.
But I think it's kind of what we're talking about is like the scheme behind getting him those big splash plays that he's capable of just haven't been there.
And I think that's when you look at the stats, you look at, hey, Christian Kirk's having another nice year. Evan Ingram's putting up good numbers.
Even Zay Jones, but it's like it's almost like predetermined.
Ball's going between the hashes. I want it underneath. Yeah. They're playing just conservative, which for certain quarterbacks, I think that's fine. I think it might be because of that O-line. They just got Cam Robinson back. Maybe they're hesitant.
No, their O-line's bad. It's not. It's not great.
I feel like it's a timing issue with them. But anyways, good conversation though. This is going to be the game though, because the Colts got beatable corners. So
this is out of the 1 o'clock slate. I think that's going to be the most fun to watch personally.
It'd be even more fun with Anthony Richardson. Definitely more fun to watch than we are. But anyways, Saints and Texans. New Orleans favored by 1.5 on the road after routing New England. I'm seeing your eyes wide open, man. I got to hear what you have to say on this one.
New England's bad. That's why the Saints won by that much. Give me Texans all the way. So I believe. Let me see. Yeah, I bet Texans. So the line opened at no. I bet them at 1.5. So I'm not going to get greedy. I'm not going to play money line, even though you're like, oh yeah, it's 1 point. I don't know. When I get greedy, I lose. So
sure.
Give me the plus 1.5 for the Texans. An excellent teaser leg too.
It's a long teaser. You get through 7. Look, I mean, CJ Stroud led a game-winning drive that just ultimately he got 1-ups, and I mean, it took Desmond Ritter's best of his career. Yeah, Stroud looks good, and it took Desmond Ritter's best game of his career for them to even lose that game. So
I'm a Saints hater though. Like I'm pretty steadfast on not believing in the Saints. So
no,
I've got a little bit of a bias there.
No, and I get that. And where I'm a little worried about this is the Saints have about 5 games a year where their defense looks like it could be the best in the league. But every other time of the year, they're either above average or they get kind of smoked.
Yeah, well, that's kind of where I'm like, that was last week, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like they've had enough elite defensive performances. This can be the weird one. Also, chips in the middle of the table. I'm buying into Bobby Slowick. I like what he's doing as the OC. I think this is another matchup where he'll be able to exploit New Orleans. So I think we're both taking the Texans here. Yeah. Not something I thought to be saying by week 6.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. We thought Texans were going to be a Panthers part 2.
Yeah,
they're not close.
No, they're legitimately good. Like they're not bad.
Yeah,
still got holes, but they're competitive. All right, let's talk Washington Commanders, Atlanta Falcons. Man, if not for Desmond Ritter's best game of his career, this might have been the Taylor Heineke revenge game we were all looking forward to. Look, I don't think either one of these two teams are great. You know, I think the Falcons defense is actually a little bit better than Washington on the field. Like I think on paper, Washington's got the better side on that end of the ball, but I think the Falcons play better. So give me the Falcons laying the 2.5 points. What you think? Oh, you're going with the commies. All right. Give me the case.
No, I don't think it's close. I think the Commanders may not blow them out because I don't think that they have necessarily the capability to do so. But I love them getting points. 2.5. I played it already. I would play. Dude, it's going to be tough for me to stay off the money line. I might even flip it to Commanders minus 2.5 because if the line came out at minus 2.5 to the Commanders, it wouldn't bother me. And I'd probably still play Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I just believe in their whole roster as a whole. I'm a UNC fan. Take it with a grain of salt. I want to see Sam Howell do well. I think he's playing well. He's sped up his processing a little bit. It's still not where it needs to be clear. But the Falcons' offense is just anemic. I don't think the Commanders' offense is anemic.
Sure.
That's really where I just kind of draw the line. Now the Commanders, I don't know. We saw them play their worst game of the year. I don't think they're going to play worse than they did last Thursday night. Where
did you see the Bills game? That might have been the worst game of their season. I don't know, man.
Well, okay, so offensively,
the Bills game was their worst offensive game.
No. But even then,
Thursday was their worst.
Even then, the Commanders they played poorly against the Bills, but it was like in key situations they played the wrong hand or Sam Howell threw a pick at the worst time. They really didn't play that bad throughout the entire game.
Right.
Whereas in the Bears game, their DBs just forgot how to tackle, or they forgot that it was their job. Like they were like, no. If the receiver catches it, I need a linebacker to come over here and tackle him, or safety, right? So if the corners just don't take so much risk against the Falcons receivers, I don't know. I think the separation between the Commanders and the Falcons is pretty decent, to be honest. So I'm all over the Commanders this week.
And you know what? Kind of even on that point, I think the biggest difference between these two teams is how the ball moves when they're moving the ball well. With the Falcons, it's 5 yards, 7 yards. The next one,
they fight for every yard on offense.
It's methodical, and it's Bijan Robinson, and then it's little screen to Drake London. Meanwhile, when Washington moves the ball, it looks like that Denver game. Dot to the back of the end zone. Jahan Dotson, big play. T-Max Moss and somebody. So really, I kind of feel like this comes down to, does Washington get the big plays? Does Terry McLaurin make that catch over AJ Terrell? If they do, they'll probably be all right. Otherwise, they're going to probably give up 17 or so points to Atlanta, and they might not have it.
I was going to say that the Commanders on offense kind of remind me of the Vikings. I know it's very kind of a lazy comp because that's the two teams I watch the most, I would say.
Sure.
But they remind me a lot of, they're either going to go 3 and out or they're going to go a 6-play drive down the field where you're like, bro, they are dotting. And like you're not doing anything on defense to stop it. So I don't know. I just kind of like their offensive upside more than the Falcons. That's why I would, play Commanders, and I already have.
And I totally get that, and that's ultimately why I'm going Atlanta. I think that defense is good enough to take away McLaurin. Sam Howell throws a couple picks. I'm interested to see what his interception line is at. And then I don't trust Washington's run defense. I don't like those linebackers. I think Bijan Robinson has a good day.
You think Sam Howell's a pick machine?
Not always, but I think this is a matchup where
6 picks through 5 games. Not great.
I mean, it's not. And honestly, I'd be more interested in like turnover-worthy plays. I want to know about like the entire decision-making process, just not what ultimately ended up in the other team's hands. Which I know that sounds weird, but
you're right.
I want a bigger view out of it. And I think Jesse Bates is a playmaker, and I don't know. I just think the way that Ryan Nielsen's got those guys playing, they're just a solid unit right now. So
it's more of you banking on the Falcons defense being as advertised and the Commanders defense being overrated.
And to be honest, I have bet Falcons 2.5. If I'm going to put a score prediction out here, 17-14 Atlanta. Like I think it's 17-14, that type of ugly game, and Washington just doesn't get the big plays. I think that's what my prediction would be. That'd be my SGP game script. But you're saying they're going to get big plays. So who would have thought we talked so long about Washington, Atlanta? Not me. All right, next one.
It's because I push back on the Commanders. That's all.
Yeah. Oh, no. Hey, it's always a good conversation. This is one where we can make up some time. Pats, Raiders. Either one of these teams are all that good. I have a hard time thinking Belichick loses to one of his disciples, though, man. I don't know. Feels like the Raiders got their win against Green Bay that maybe they shouldn't have even got that if not for Jordan Love selling it. I will reluctantly buy into Mac Jones and the New England offense.
We are on the opposite side again.
Okay.
The Patriots, I'm out on Bill Belichick.
Okay. Hey, okay.
Yeah. He has no interest in scoring points. I like that's what it seems like. Like they have no interest in moving the ball down the field and scoring points. The Raiders should have won the game. Oh no, they did win.
Yeah, the Raiders did win.
Yeah, the Raiders won.
Jordan Love 3 picks. Yeah,
they're not great, to be honest. And I don't think Mac Jones makes the mistakes that he made or that Jordan Love made. But I don't know. 3 points.
And I mean, to your point, like I don't think this New England offense is very good. I don't think Mac Jones is very good, and he doesn't have supporting cast to kind of buoy him up.
Josh McDaniels is terrible, to be honest.
And that's where it's like I can't see Belichick losing one of his disciples.
I texted you guys. I said he hit the trifecta of terrible offense. He ran an end around for negative yards, a double pass for negative yards,
and the flea flicker,
and a flea flicker for an incompletion. And I'm just like, bro, if you're pulling out all 3 of those in a single game against Jordan Love, while you're driving the ball down the field, if you feel the need to pull all of that out, I'm just like, what are you thinking? You have Devontae Adams on your team. Do you understand?
Yeah, right.
You have the league's leading rusher from last year on your team.
Keep it simple.
Josh Jacobs.
Look good too. Yeah.
Let's run double passes and flea flickers. Great idea.
It's just a little overthinking, right? And I kind of feel like that's ultimately where he kind of hurts himself in this one. But I don't know. Like I said, either one of these two teams are good. And if you're a Patriots fan, you should probably want to lose this game. You should probably want the loss here so you can get Quinn Ewers.
I was going to say Raiders -3 was my play, but the more, like literally, I just thought about it more. I'm not touching that game. No,
I can't trust the Raiders. I can't.
Both teams terrible. I'm not playing that.
Honestly, this game might be the game to end in a tie. Go ahead and get that at like plus 1,800. So also one other bet, if I can do interception props, JC Jackson gets to pick this game. I don't know why, but he's getting to pick this game. All right, Eagles Jets. Eagles favored by 7. I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent on this one. Let me hear your case for why the Eagles are the best team in the NFC.
Well, they can just win in multiple ways. I think that's
what we were saying last year too.
Yeah, it's what we were saying last year. Got into the Super Bowl last year, right? But it is also, it's one of those things where you wonder if it's going to happen again, like to get to the Super Bowl, right? So at some point, it's going to bite them that they're not super, super elite at one thing, if that makes sense. Sure. So like, let's think about like prime Chiefs. Like nobody's stopping that passing game. Now, not necessarily this year, right? But like when they had Tyreek Hill, Travis
And
Kelce.
Yeah.
They were completely elite at certain things.
Okay.
The Eagles, I don't think, are necessarily elite at certain things. They're great at running the ball. They're good at passing the ball. And that's getting them wins in multiple different ways. I would say they're great at defense. They're not elite on defense.
Okay.
Which could be a little controversial. I kind of like the Jets +7, to be honest.
Okay.
Close. Because I love that defense, man. That defense is so good. And the Eagles have played a lot of opponents where they've just been kind of a Vikings game. But it's just an easy way where if the passing game's not working, or if your digs across the middle aren't working, whatever it may be, they just ran the ball. They just ran the ball down their throats. It didn't matter. They're not going to be able to do that against the Jets. Jalen Hurts is going to have to be able to throw the ball. The Jets haven't really been giving up big plays down the field either. So I kind of like their defense, and at 7 points, I kind of like it. I think they lose by 4.
Yeah, and the other thing that makes this game tough is like Zach Wilson looked a little bit better last week, but it wasn't like the Kansas City game good, where it was like, okay, he kind of figured it out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I might go Jets first half and say that defense keeps them around, and then the second half maybe they get a little worn out. But I don't know. Philadelphia is typically a pretty good first half team. So
Jets at home might help too. Just being
that could definitely help.
Having to play in Philly, so I think I'd lean Jets +7, but I don't know if I'd play it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd play the 7. I'm more interested in the Eagles as a teaser leg, if anything. Get that down to 1. I can think about it. I like that. They're the better team to me. So
I like that.
But the Jets, I don't know. I got to see more of Wilson. All right, next up, we got Lions Bucks. Bucks coming off a bye. The Lions right now leading the pack in the NFC North, no pun intended. I'm only favored by 3. I'm thinking the Lions, man. I feel like Vegas knows something I don't. This should be more than 3 points. The Buccaneers' record's better than I think they are. And in Ben Johnson, I trust. That man's got that offense rolling, to say the least. JT, what do you think?
The Bucks are bad. So we're on the same side. It's Lions -3. I played it already. No. Sorry. The Baker's still bad.
What do we think about the total at 43.5? I kind of like the over there. Like, I think Detroit moves the ball well. You get 17 points.
The Bucks offense is more anemic than their scoring total suggests. So they've had some short fields created by their defense, which could happen again. I'm just not buying it. Give me the Lions. I don't know if I'd touch the total. I see you at the 43.5, but a lot of the times when I play NFL overs, it's always some team putting up 10 that screws me. The one team shows up, the other one doesn't. I don't think the Bucks show up in this matchup.
Okay. And that's fair. They're due for a game like that. And you're a due theory guy through and through. Like, they're just bound for a bad game other than that Philadelphia game.
Baker's not good. I'm sorry. He's still not good.
Yeah, he's like QB 30, which is
wild. That's what I'm saying. Like, but he's QB 30, and we understand that.
Yeah.
But I think certain people are moving him up, and I just don't get it.
Yeah. And even if he's playing better this year, let's call him QB 26. All right.
No.
It's not like he's jumping up to QB 6, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I don't know. But it is wild. I know you and I have talked about this so many times, but like, if you were to just take Baker Mayfield and drop him in the league 25 years ago, people would not know what to do with themselves. They'd be like, oh my God, this guy's top 12. He's insane. But also like the disparity, the parity really of like QBs 1 through 32 is just different then versus now. Mm-hmm. Anyways, always a fun thing for me to talk about. Cardinals Rams next game to talk about. Rams favored by 6.5. I feel like the Cardinals are going to bounce back here, keep it competitive. I'll take the Rams to win, Cardinals to cover.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I'm not going to play either side. I think the Rams are clearly the better team. The Rams are a big surprise. I think the Rams are a playoff team. I don't think it's really up for debate at this point. I think they've shown enough, especially on offense. I mean, they're cooking. Give me the Rams to win the game. As far as covering 6.5, I'm just not going to touch it. I think they could win by 10 easy. They could win by 14 easy. Yeah. But I could also see the Cardinals keeping it close, and then the Rams just kind of run the ball out in the fourth quarter. They win by, 5 or 4 or whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
But I probably wouldn't play anything. I think it's kind of clear to us kind of who the better team is. Just kind of a boring game where I expect the Rams to win.
Yeah, I mean, especially after seeing Jamar Chase go crazy. I played Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp receiving yards last week. I'll probably do the same thing again this week. Odds are at least one of the two of them hits. Probably Kupp.
It dropped. So last week with both of them playing, you remember what Puka's line was at?
64.5. Cooper Kupp was 58.5. I think that's probably going to end up being close to 70 for both. It's probably going to end up being close to 70 both, if I had to guess. Or 65 and 70 or something like that.
All right.
But I like the over for both. Those guys can get the ball.
Then,
Huh?
you think they'll both hit again?
I'll say yeah. At least one.
Personally, if I'm playing one receiver over yards, I don't touch the next. I don't touch the.
Which I totally get. I totally get. And if I'm going to do that, give me Cooper Kupp. I think Kupp does it again. Sure. You could use this as a Rams teaser leg, get them down to a pick 'em, but I don't know. Something about the Cardinals. Maybe it was that
a little sketchy. They
something about that Dallas game, week 3, screwing Mason out of the Survivor League. I can't do it. Anyways, next one to talk about: Giants and Bills. Dude, Sunday Night Football is just getting the worst draw. There is no reason.
We've got to get the Giants off prime time. We have to find
the Giants and Jets. There's got to be, until Rodgers is back, those two have got to take a backseat for prime time. So we can.
You win a playoff game and they just give you all the prime time.
Yeah, unless you're the Vikings.
God, it's crazy, man. 14 points is right where it should be. I'm not touching it. It's 14. It's a lot of points.
Yes, I'll take the Bills to win.
Yeah, Bills are going to win.
I'll put my flag on that one.
Yeah, the Bills will definitely win. 14, I'm not touching just because, a fluke pick at the end or something. I don't know. I'm not going to play with it. But, yeah, no, it's not much to talk about here. It's great. It's a really good team versus a really bad team.
Yeah. And, a really bad team that has incentive to keep tanking. They have. I mean, it's probably for the best thing.
Sure.
Anyways, Monday Night Football to close out the week. Actually, a good way to end the week. Cowboys and Chargers. You know I love me some Justin Herbert. But these are the games they lose, man. Any team that's competitive that they can play, Brandon Staley loses that game. I'm taking the Cowboys,
Really?
Which kills me to say. I want to buy into Herbert, but I think it's Dallas' game to win. What do you think?
I'm going to go opposite here. So I'm going to go. I'd play Chargers money line. I don't know if I've played their spread yet. Let me see. No, so I haven't touched this game officially, but I think I lean Chargers just because I kind of look at Herbert's great at breaking sacks. The Cowboys are great at getting sacks. So I think if he can neutralize some of the, not necessarily a free rusher, I'm not worried about that, but I'm saying just the 4-man pressure where Micah Parsons or whoever comes off the edge gets just one hand on them on Herbert. A lot of times he's able to break free and make something happen. I just think Herbert is able to neutralize very great defenses without a ton of effort. So to me, it's really about, I think him and the defense kind of neutralize each other. And then I think it comes down to whether or not you think the Cowboys are going to move the ball in the Chargers defense, which isn't, necessarily not going to happen. I hate Dak. I think he's terrible.
Which, hey, and I'm much higher on Dak than you are, but last Sunday night's the exact game why it's hard to buy into Dak, where you can make the argument he's top 10, but then you see a game like that where it's this is your chance to say you're top 4. And he looks spooked. What are we doing? Yeah, he does. I feel like he's seeing ghosts against San Francisco.
But it's weird. It's you're so deep into your career and he looked spooked.
He specifically looks, I would love to know his specific PFF grades against San Francisco. I think it's in his head. I definitely think it, he just can't get past.
Yeah. And it's not a physical thing. He can make all the throws, all that. But dude, if you watch him at the end of a drive where he misses a throw or he throws a pick or something like that, man, after it, he literally looks around he's man, what just happened?
Yeah, he's in a daze. Yeah, for sure.
It's a complete daze where there's nothing behind the eyes going on, because he's just in his head. I don't know. It's crazy, dude.
But let me just lay out one case for why I'm going to take the Cowboys here. And it's tough to take lessons from a team a year ago and what's going to happen here. But as much as I don't like Mike McCarthy as a head coach, and I'm not sure his play calling, him being the guy running the offense, is really changing things. This is also an interesting Kellen Moore revenge game. So all the more reason I kind of want the Chargers to win. But I'm going to take Dallas. You look at Dallas losses last year, they lose to Green Bay in overtime. They bounce back the next week. They dog the Vikings. Sorry to bring that up. They get a close game against, they got a close game against the Giants. They rout the Colts the next week. Then they lose to the Jaguars in overtime. The next week they beat Philadelphia at home. For whatever reason it is, I don't know what it is. I'm not in the locker room. Mike McCarthy does not have these teams typically playing 2 bad games in a row. So I'm just going to kind of go off that. This is a game where Staley disappoints on national television, gets everyone fired up, talking about how you should be fired. And then McCarthy bounces back. The Cowboys kind of avoid 2 ugly primetime games in a row. So I'll take Dallas. It's only 2 points. Not really worried about it.
That's the reason I haven't. It's more of that kind of narrative why I haven't played the spread or I haven't played money line. It's because of stuff like that.
But let me be clear. I'm pulling for the Chargers. I hope Kellen Moore drops 50 on Dallas. That would make me beyond happy. Like I'd be so.
That'd be an awesome game. That would be an awesome game.
Yeah, hopefully. But that does it for our Week 6 NFL preview. We've gone through each and every game. Now it's time to talk locks of the week. I'll make sure I have Mason's down below in the description. I did not give his before we jumped on the recording. Oh, man. JT, do you have any plays that you got coming to mind?
Man, no, to be honest. Give me a second. I'm gonna think on some stuff. I mean, we kind of see which sides I'm leaning on a lot of these games.
Right.
I think the value is pushing up, and I'll play it here in a sec. Some of the underdogs that I don't think should be underdogs is kind of the sides that I'm gonna play
and teasing them out a little bit more.
Yeah, teasing them out just a bit.
So I'm gonna take that Houston's one of your 2 legs.
No, I got mine. It's not Houston.
Okay, what you got?
So I'm gonna go. This is my lock of the week. It's actually at plus money, which is kind of nice as well. So we're gonna go Commanders plus 7.5. So I'm pushing them out from 2.5 at the Falcons to 7.5. And then I'm gonna parlay that with the Lions money line.
What was the first part of that? Sorry.
Commanders plus 7.5.
Commanders plus 7.5. You said there's no way you and I just did this. You said Detroit money line right as I just put this into my bet.
Detroit money line.
That's amazing.
Yep, Detroit money line. So if you take the Commanders, push them out from 2.5 to 7.5, and then you parlay that with the Detroit Lions money line, at current odds, it is plus 122 right now. So you get a little plus money on. Yeah, I mean that's my lock. So something that I feel is a lot.
All right. All right, I got mine. I'm going to go ahead and take 2 legs out of it. I was going to add Kansas City and the Bills in there just because it's fun, but the odds are so bad they don't even worry about it. I'm going to go Lions and 49ers money line tandem. I'm a little worried about San Francisco just because they're undefeated. It feels like they're going to run into a game where all of a sudden it doesn't work just because you can't win 17 games and play awesome for 17 straight. But I definitely think the Lions are the better side. And if there's even a possibility PJ Walker suits up, I feel like I got to take advantage of that with San Francisco's defense. So I'm going Niners and Lions money line. You got the Washington Commanders with a little bit wider of a spread, and then the Lions money line. So we're all in on Detroit. How's that feel as a Vikings fan?
Hey, they're good, man. They're decent. I don't think they're great. I think they're good.
Yeah. Any other plays we like? I mentioned Jason Jackson to get a pick. I'm kind of interested in that. Tyreek Hill props. Always hot.
Just looking at all of the spreads and all the games that we talked about, it feels like a lot of these games, at least personally, I think a lot of them are easy to predict the winner more than the spread.
Sure.
Now I'm going to put a little play together. It's going to be a couple underdogs winning, to be clear. Right. So I'm going to go, if you parlay, I think the Jags get it done at home with the Colts coming with Minshew. So I'm going to go Jags money line, Texans money line. They're underdogs against the Saints. Commanders money line, because I think they beat the Falcons. I think they're just better. And then Detroit money line. If you parlay all those together, it's plus 1,017. So it's a 4-leg parlay. So it's not something that's a gimme by any means.
Yeah.
I just think that the 2 underdogs shouldn't be underdogs, and then I think the Lions and Jags take care of business. So that's a play that I really like as well.
Awesome. I like it. Some other player props, like I mentioned, Tyreek, Jordan Addison, we mentioned him earlier on. I like Bijan, too, against that Washington defense. And then from there, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm a little interested in him against Tampa. I think he always has pretty generous receiving yards props. Cooper Kupp, we already noted. And then I don't know, I need more time to think about Dallas and Chargers, who ultimately who I want to play there. But those are a handful of plays. Kelsey anytime touchdowns, minus 170. If it wasn't that, then I'd play that. I think
minus 170 for any time touchdown.
Let me just double check that. Yeah, minus 170.
That's interesting.
That's a play I like a lot, but
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole because the 70 cents you have to pay on the dollar for an anytime touchdown is absurd.
That being said, I did just use a 50% boost on it. Got it down to minus 114. So I'll do that.
I'm okay with that. That's a decent.
He typically plays well against Denver, so I like that match. Well, that does it. Those are our locks of the week. JT's got a nice little teaser tandem play. I'm going in with the Lions money line as well and pairing them up with the who was the other one? What did I say? Hold on. Let's go back to the bet slip. San Francisco, of course. Can't forget your block already. And like I said in the description, Mason's lock of the week will be down there. We're all 3-2 on the season, so we're all doing pretty good. But that's going to do it for our Week 6 preview. Be sure to come back next week when we preview Week 7. Hopefully we'll have we're programming note. Not going to be here for Week 7. we're going to be in Italy to celebrate my guy's wedding. So next Wednesday will actually be JT's first day as a married man. So send us your well wishes, and certainly give him the best of his luck. He'll need it. But the week after that, week 8, we got you coming back here with the Hurry Up Offense. So until then, for JT, I'm TJ. We are signing off.